Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're bringing Obie Strickler on the line. He's founder and CEO over at Grown Rogue, and he is participating in the DealFlow Discovery Conference, which is going to be taking place January 28th through 29th at the Borgata in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Let me tell you, I went last year, and I've been working with DealFlow for a long time. You guys do not want to miss that conference. Let's get started. Obie, welcome to the show.
Yeah, super excited to be here, Adam. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. Of course, I want to get into your company, Grown Rogue, and talk about, some maybe myths versus reality in the cannabis industry at all, and also how you got started. But just to get us kicked off, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Obie, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, for executives, for experts. That's what we do. Obie, what mission matters to you?
Yeah, so at Grown Rogue, we're a cannabis organization that focuses on cultivation, and our goal is to bring low-cost, high-quality product to the masses across the U.S.
Yeah, I love bringing mission-based individuals on the line to share how they do what they do, what they're doing, and really what we can all learn from that so we grow together. So great having you on. And I guess just to get us started here, we got that conference coming up. We're recording this in early December, and before we know it, we'll blink and we'll be in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So the DealFlow Discovery Conference, have you worked with the DealFlow team before, or is it the first time? Give me some of the backstory.
Yeah, no, this will be our first time working with DealFlow directly, but they've got a great reputation, and we just thought it was a good venue for our company, kind of our growth story, and what we're trying to accomplish in the cannabis space with a kind of diverse group of investors. And yeah, really excited about it. And they put on a great conference, we heard, and looking forward to attending.
That's awesome. Well, looking forward to meeting you in person. And so let's dive right into Grown Rogue. See the title here, founder. How'd this get started? Give me a little bit about the business.
Yeah, so I have a personal long history in cannabis. My background is actually in geology, so that's what I got my degree in. But we always saw just a strong kind of opportunity for, health and wellness, also the recreational components. So we had a small medical business that we started back in Oregon in the mid 2000s. My wife and I, kind of was doing the geology thing simultaneously, a lot of natural resource, kind of mining, oil and gas work. And then as you started seeing legalization kind of come across Canada to start and then into the US, we said, hey, now's the time to kind of put, kind of this passion we have for this industry, this product, and go full bore. So we started Grown Rogue officially in late 16, early 17, and have just been building the business since then. It's been kind of a wild ride, but, having, my wife and partner and then the team we built, it's been pretty fantastic. But it's definitely a, complex, challenging, volatile industry. So you got to stay on your toes if you're going to be successful in it.
Where'd the name come from? I love it, by the way. Play on words. Where'd the name come from?
It's actually, we're based in the Rogue Valley of Oregon, which is kind of world renowned for quality of cannabis. We're cultivators at core. And so we grown, which obviously cultivation, we grow things. Rogue is the valley that we're from, and where there's, again, like really high quality kind of outdoor production that's been, shipping across the U.S. for a long time, all the way back to like the early 50s. The other thing that, is the adjective or the verb of Grown Rogue. When you rogue a crop, you're removing all the negative aspects of it. So another kind of attribute to what we do when we focus on high quality. So it kind of fed across a number of things that's kind of, important to us as a company, kind of to our kind of origin story.
Yeah. Well, it's catchy. You hear it once and you remember.
Well, good. Well, that's the intent. You want the name to be, don't want to forget it. So it's good.
Yeah. Were you always an entrepreneur, or did you always have kind of like this entrepreneurial spirit and obviously entrepreneur household? I mean, your wife as well. So where'd that start for you?
I think we've always had that itch. I come from a family that is entrepreneurial. My dad had his own business. Both of my brothers are entrepreneurs that started their own businesses, and just kind of in the blood. And I think a lot of it comes from trying to solve a problem and seeing an opportunity. But, also you kind of get to direct your own path. And so, always kind of had that. And Grown Rogue's been kind of the manifestation of, a lot of work, a lot of effort, and, kind of learnings that is manifested in the Grown Rogue today.
What's it like? And I'm always curious on this side of things, especially for entrepreneurs, when you enter a space like cannabis where regulation is just, it's always going to be a thing. I mean, it's hard enough to start a business, to get a business scale, to grow it and all that thing, but you add this other layer of the product and the regulation and the government and like all these other things. Like, what's that like when you finally decide to kind of go down that path?
Any business is difficult to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Kudos to any, entrepreneur, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a tech company. Regulatory is just an added complexity to what we do, but coming from kind of the mining industry, which is highly regulated, it while it creates challenge in certain areas, that's where a lot of the opportunity sits. So it's just another thing you have to deal with, whether it's banking, whether it's local approvals. A lot of industries kind of have that. I think in cannabis, there's a lot of regulatory capture and nuance that each kind of state rolls out their own kind of rules in a different fashion. There's no kind of uniformity, across the market, which creates its own kind of, limitations. And then, the fact that it's still a Schedule 1. And so we don't have federal legalization yet. And so another unique challenge we have, and again, similar to mining where, your mine or whatever your project is in an individual state, everything we do is state centric. And so when you go into a new state, you have to build the infrastructure, you have to build a team. You can't ship across state lines yet. So that's probably the most challenging piece. You can't really kind of capitalize in some economies of scale. But again, the opportunity there is you have to be well capitalized, good balance sheet, discipline, ability to scale your SOPs and your team and your network into new markets. So again, where risk and challenge lie also is where opportunity sits.
Let's go further into Grown Rogue. Let's start off with tell me a little bit more about the business.
Yeah, so Grown Rogue is a cultivator. That's our focus. When we first started the company, we try to do all things to all people. We wanted to do retail. We wanted to do distribution. We wanted to have a bunch of products. And
it's hard to do it all, isn't it?
Hard to do it all. And it's actually easy to do it all. It's hard to do it all well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, agreed.
We wanted to be experts at what we did. And so, as we made a bunch of mistakes earlier, we took the company public in 2018 as that was a way to go kind of access capital. And, so we're publicly traded on the, the Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker GRIN and on the over-the-counter markets under GRUSF. And what we really realized is where our passion sat. Our passion was in cultivation. That's where our history sat. And so we kind of just refocused the company, focused on cultivation. So right now we're currently operating in Oregon, Michigan, and New Jersey. The business started in Oregon, back to the origin of Grown Rogue, like Rogue Valley. That's where we're from. Our primary focus is on indoor cultivation. So we build controlled environmental agricultural systems. So like indoor warehouses that have environmental controls. It's a very manufacturing type process, except we're making an organic plant. And then we control that process all the way through. We do the coning, the flowering cycle. We do the post-harvest, drying and curing. We package it, and then we self-distribute. And so we do about 30,000 pounds a year of production across our 3 markets. There's about 10,000 pounds of indoor inside or outdoor inside of what we do. We go to some outdoor farms in Oregon. It's kind of just, a unique kind of characteristic of the Oregon market. We don't grow outdoor in Michigan and New Jersey. We started Oregon in 2017. We expanded into Michigan in 2020. We turned on New Jersey in 2024, early 25. And then we currently have 2 licenses and facilities in both Illinois and Minnesota. And so Minnesota will kind of be the next market that we put, kind of our focus and energy against. And we'll just continue to expand it outwards for where we want to go. But again, flower focused. We do pre-rolls, but just very just disciplined and focused towards what we do. Not trying to get spread out. Not trying to be all things to all people.
Yeah. What would you say? Would you say that this is one of the things that I guess differentiates yourself from maybe some of your peers, or what else would you say differentiates yourself?
There's a lot of differentials, and it's complex and kind of, it's a highly competitive market. So you got companies all big ones, small ones, retail. I think the key things that kind of jump out to me are balance sheet. right? We have a really, really good balance sheet. One of the challenges our industry faced early on is everyone trying to go really, really fast, and they got over leveraged, right? Took on too much debt or expanded too quickly, and didn't have the financial wherewithal to be successful. Also really struggled with the culture, right? Culture is really critical as you're building a team to make sure you've got the right kind of foundation for how you want to expand.
Yeah.
Our focus is a big differentiator. We talked about that a little bit already, just like, again, trying to be narrow and not do all things for all people and do what we do really, really well. The other big driver in our success is being a low-cost operator. And this comes back from, working in the mining industry, which was a very commodity-based kind of industry. Cost of production is really important. And, you got one group that's cost of production is $200 and another group that's $100. If price is at $1,000,
yeah,
theirs. If price goes to $150, one group has a business and one group doesn't. And so we're one of the lowest cost producers in the U.S., and that's a big focus of where our organization wants to be. And it's a key kind of differentiator and component for how, Grown Rogue kind of progresses in the space, but also how we are, excited in what you do versus the competition that we go up against.
Yeah. Is it safe to say that like maybe some of the same disciplines learned in the mining sector were applied to this, and just in general, especially when you took the company public and other things? It sounds to me like you're pretty set up in terms of at least thought process and how you were going to do this as you were laying it out. Am I off on that, or like?
There was a lot of learnings through the mining industry. We had two, and I wasn't like the CEO or the founder of those companies, but it was pretty in a pretty small team. So we had two kind of public companies in the mining sector. So it definitely gave me confidence in going public. Although, it's like I tell my kids, like people told me how hard it was, but when I tell my child like the fires that that stove is hot, what does that mean? They got to touch it. So I had to touch it. Realize when dad says it's hot, that's what hot means. And so really you just got to go through experience, and you can take the learnings from others. I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts of other entrepreneurs to learn from what they've done, how they've been successful. Each entrepreneur kind of builds their own path. And so I think, all the things in my history, my team's history, my wife's history has led us once. It's all been helpful. But definitely, that experience in the mining industry kind of set the stage, I think, for the foundation that we have at GoRogue.
Yeah. So let's talk about the opportunity a bit here. And we can have this conversation generally, because I know everything's going to be different and we're not giving any investment advice today, but for in general, when an investor is thinking about getting access or adding a piece of their portfolio to this industry, what are some of the things they should think about when they're evaluating a company?
Great question. I think you've got to start, do you want to be exposed to this sector? Right. Cannabis has had a lot of hype. It's had a lot of, downturn, like the big, like ETF, the MSOS that kind of governs, like the only ETF that, there's a couple others, TOPE, like a few. But the big ones that drive it is down a ton over the last 5 years because the hype cycle really drove this up. And I think as an investor, you got to be, hey, do I want to be in cannabis? We think if you want to be in cannabis, like Grown Rogue is arguably more that you can be in based upon, our share price, kind of our vision and our path and where we want to go. But I think you want to really meet the companies, like know what you own, like spend time with the leadership, the management teams, and get comfortable that you're betting as much on a business as you are on the jockey, right? The lowest of the top kind of concept. And so what we found is most of we have a really tight cap table, like the top probably 5 or 10 shareholders in our business own 50% of the shares. So we found a really strong kind of shareholder group that's aligned with kind of our vision of the plan and the long-term kind of component of what we're trying to build.
Yeah.
I think as an investor, you want to understand that. Like if you want to have a trade, there's a company for that. If you're investing in a group where you see a 2 to 5, 10-year plan that you want to get behind and you support, there's companies for that. So do your research, spend the time to get to know the businesses, and then be prepared for ups and downs. Like the fundamentals of businesses are not tied to, stock price today. There's so much unknown volatility. And so, like when we talk to investors about Grown Rogue, we say, like, we want long-term investors. That's who the majority of our investors are. Be prepared. We'll sit in this company for 2 to 5 years. Like, here's the plan that we're laying out. And if you want to come along for the ride, we'd love to have you. But, we're not a trade. We're not someone that, that you're going to get in and out of super quick. Like we want people kind of in this for a little bit longer time horizon.
So you mentioned the word vision a couple of times. Where do you see this in 3 to 5 years? Like, what's the vision? What's the plan?
Really simple. Like we want to keep expanding our footprint into additional markets while simultaneously continuing to optimize like our business metrics, the things we control, cost of production. It was kind of the biggest factor of that. And we're going to do that through, a series of things. One is the greenfield opportunities, we call them, which is new markets. Like the next one was focused on that we just closed on a building last week in Minnesota. Like that's a key focus of the new construction project that we'll put in place and build out our, fourth cultivation facility in the state. We also see a tremendous amount of like M&A inside of the market with some of the distress that's happening. So we're actively looking at, other ways to kind of expand our footprint. The goal to be in, 7 to 10 markets over the next, 3 to 5 years. Like we're in 3 currently operating. We have 2 kind of on deck, and we think getting to 7 to 10, over that timeline makes a lot of sense. The other thing we're spending a lot more time on now that is kind of, a lot of companies started with trying to build a brand before they built a product.
Yeah.
And we went the other way. We knew that, there was going to be a lot of brands, a lot of competition. Like, let's get the product right. Let's get our pricing on the off thing we have. And then we'll build the brand and the loyalty on top of that. And so the other thing we're really focused on over the, kind of medium term is, loyalty to the brand. So we've been investing quite a bit more in kind of, marketing and, kind of brand education, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of another, 3 to 5 years that's going to be really important for our business long term.
And one of the things you mentioned earlier when you were talking about, because obviously you can't, and just to repeat this in case the audience didn't catch it, you can't transport over state lines. So everything's within each state. And you mentioned things like having tighter SOPs and metrics and just, you didn't use this word, but safeguards or different things that you're running the business through. So what's interesting to me in this, and not saying you're saying this, but I've always just thought this, I'm like, okay, so if there ever was a point in time, which we can't, guarantee, but if there ever was a point in time when this did become a federal thing, it's like companies in general, like yours, that have had these tight operations and have been on the same page, in theory would benefit. Because they're, and again, this is me projecting, this isn't you saying it, but in theory, they'd benefit. But you're not counting on that. Like you're building very functional and operational units in each state and abiding by where we're at present day in regulation. Am I off in any of that, or am I understanding it right? I just want to, I want to frame that right.
100%. We look at regulatory shift at the federal level as an advantage that we would like to take, or that we'll be a beneficiary of. But our business is not dependent upon it. The other thing I think was really important is, a lot of companies are waiting for federal deregulation, thinking at that point I'll be able to ship my products.
Yeah.
But going back to the brand piece. And so we kind of look at a little bit of our expansion right now as kind of the hub model, right? Like we're building brand relationships with the consumer. We're building, partner relationships with our retail partners. And you don't just turn those on overnight, right? There's a process to build those up. And so as we expand, in Michigan, top 5 indoor wholesaler, we're the number 1 indoor producer in Oregon. We're quickly moving up the ranks in, New Jersey over the last year. Like those states and those consumers know us. That's only going to be a benefit as the walls come down and we can start to ship. And then we think we'll have brand equity in those markets. And then we'll decide, do we want to consolidate some of our production?
Sure.
And that'll be a decision based upon, shipping costs, logistics,
who knows? Yeah, no, and I get that too. And that's why I asked the question that way, because I get that. It's like there could be this other thing that happens, but even if it doesn't, you're already doing and have the steps there to where it's a solid, grounded business, period. Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly right. So but again, I've always said we'll take advantage of, regulatory change and shift in federal rules, but our business is not dependent upon it. And anyone that's kind of dependent upon that, I think is, it's just so unknown, right? The government's been saying they want to deschedule for as long as I can remember, and it still hasn't happened. So, trying to make your business dependent upon, the decisions in the White House is fraught with peril.
Yeah. Well, Obie, this has been a lot of fun having you on the show today and getting to know more about growing Rogue. What's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for the company? We're recording this mid-December. Obviously, the DealFlow conference coming up early January or late January, excuse me. What's next for you, though? What's next for the company?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing in front of us right now is Minnesota, right?
Mhm.
So again, we just secured our cultivation facility literally Friday. So we closed on that.
Come on.
We're under, I mean, it's like real time. So like
Breaking news on Mission Matters. That's what we do, Obie.
well, we put out I mean, we did do a press release on it this morning, so it's out in the public domain. But that's the core focus. We've talked about it publicly in our last earnings call. And so the big kind of priority for the business right now is to get Minnesota built and get into that market as quickly as possible. Like it's a brand new market. It's a limited license. There's only been so many issued. We think we'll want to be one of the first, like kind of up and coming independent operators. There's only 2 licenses that are kind of operational right now in that state. And so, yeah, we're just very excited about that opportunity and kind of putting all energy, focus, intention against getting Minnesota done. And then, as we get that kind of spun up, we'll be looking again, as I've mentioned, some of the distress we're seeing. We have the Illinois project that's waiting for us once we decide to start building it. So we'll just slowly start, kind of progressing the business into these new markets. But Minnesota is the core focus in 2026.
Fantastic. And what's the best way for people to follow up? How can they learn more about growing Rogue?
Yeah, I mean, website's up. Go to the website. There's, you can email us. I think invest@Rogue. I don't know if my contact information will be on this, but feel free to reach out to me directly. But yeah, a lot of good information on the website. Then again, we love to talk to potential investors or existing investors. So reach out all the time. We'd love to have further conversations.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And don't forget, you can also meet the Growing Rogue team in person at the DealFlow Discovery Conference, which is taking place January 28th through 29th. And that'll be at the Borgata in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Definitely come out, step out, especially if you're an investor, step out, come say hi. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Obie, man, it's been a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you in Atlantic City.
Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate the time and look forward to meeting you in person in a few months.